Well, hey everybody. What's up, everybody? I am back. I'm Dr. Lauren Pitts Bounds, licensed couple marriage and family therapist. This is Thursday night. Next episode. What session is this? This is session 16 of Dr. Pitts Tips Live. Welcome. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I told you before, tell your family members, tell your friends in them, and folk that can benefit from this information. Because the reason why I'm doing this is because so many of y'all won't go to therapy, but you know that your life, your mental health, your relationship health is not where it ideally needs to be for you to have healthy, fulfilling, and sustainable relationships. And as I say each and every single week, my social media manager was really adamant about us bringing therapy to you since folks won't come to therapy. So we were like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's, lead the horses, horses. We're going to lead the horses to water, and hopefully folk will drink. And no, I'm not really calling anybody a horse, so stop it. But definitely, when you look around the world, when you look around your family, when you look around your house, when you look around your community, what is absolutely positively evident is that people are in bad shape. Their relationships are in bad shape. Their households are in bad shape. And bottom line is I have a heart for people, and I genuinely and sincerely, particularly having had challenges in life of my own, which I speak very frequently about, and I'm very transparent about those things. I said, you know what? How can I use everything that I've learned? How can I use all of the heartache and the pain and the blood and the sweat and the tears that went into my transformation into Dr. Lauren D. Pitts Bounds, into being a stronger, healthier, more positive, productive version of myself than I've ever been in my life. And I want to share that information with you. I don't believe that those lessons learned are for me to just sit on and to sort of be stingy or greedy with them. So tonight we're going to be talking about relationship sabotage. And the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because I'm seeing it. I have a heavy caseload where my therapeutic clients are concerned. I have a relatively heavy caseload as far as my international life coaching clients go. And at different points in time, what is clear to me is that people are struggling in their relationships, and they don't realize that a big part of why they're struggling in their relationships is because they're sabotaging them, right? So I thought that it would be helpful for each of you to sort of to present you with information and to tease some of the information out in a way that would be instrumental in helping you to have a much clearer understanding of why you have the problems that you do in your relationships. The reality of it is that when you take a step back, or what I like to call elevate your perspective and go from the dance floor of life up to the balcony of life, it's at that balcony of life perspective that you're able to get a much clearer view of how you're showing up in your relationships. It enables you to get a much clearer view of, first and foremost, how you relate to yourself. And a lot of people don't realize that the reason why they struggle in their relationships with others is because they're struggling in their relationship with themselves. And it's really important to understand how that informs how you think, how you feel, how you function, and how you navigate life. And the reality of it is that when you actually take the time to be honest with yourself, to be vulnerable and transparent with yourself, first and foremost, you'll come to the realization that you're demonstrating some deep-seated emotional patterns. For many of you, you might have some unresolved past traumas. You might even be living in some traumatic experiences in your day-to-day life now. Life may have happened to you in such a way that you've developed an insecure attachment style. You hear me talking about those attachment styles often, whether it be here on live or during my podcast. So, as a result of the unresolved traumas, as a result of some of the challenges that you're facing in your day to day life now, you end up having a fear of intimacy or a fear of vulnerability. In other words, you are terrified to feel. And what I say to folks is, why do you treat your emotional experiences like they're domestic terrorists? If somebody physically assaults you, if somebody physically steps to you, if somebody comes at you in a way that you feel physically threatening, you'll fight till the bloody end. But when it comes to your emotions, many of you allow your emotions to have carte blanche in your life. You allow your emotions to shake you around like a rag doll, or like that rubber thing that blows on the car lots. You don't take responsibility and accountability for the power and the authority that you have to better control your emotional experiences. So, because you allow your emotions to sort of toss you to and fro like you're a doormat or a rag doll, you end up developing these fears of intimacy, fears of being vulnerable, fear of being transparent. And if those things last long enough, or if the damage that's been done before you even developed those behaviors occur long enough, you end up having a fractured sense of self. You end up having a shattered sense of self. You end up having a diminished sense of self. And what does that look like in layman's terms? Low self esteem, low self worth. You end up positioning yourself to be a control freak. Well, Dr. Pitts, what do you mean by that? I mean that there's so many areas of your life that have been out of control, that truly were beyond your ability to control those outcomes, that now you're navigating life in this persistent place and space of fear. So now you're trying to control and dominate and manipulate and being overbearing, trying to stop from feeling any pain. But the reality of it is that life has pain. It's inevitable. It's unavoidable. People are going to die. People are going to disappoint you. People, are going to hurt your feelings sometimes. Everything in life is not going to go exactly the way you want it to go. But you end up, with this overbearing, controlling, domineering personality, and these, personality traits, among a whole bunch of other factors, that end up becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. The very thing that you fear the most, which is being by yourself, being alone, being abandoned, being rejected, you end up attracting that. You end up literally living a self-fulfilling prophecy, because you've engaged in clinically what we call all of these maladaptive, or these unhealthy coping mechanisms, and the characteristics that show up in various areas of your life because of these things, that you end up fracturing your relationships. You In some cases, you end up ruining them. In some cases, you end up doing so much damage to a relationship, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, that you're by yourself, which is the thing that you fear the most. And don't get it twisted. I can hear you. I can hear you through the computer. I know you're sitting in your house and you talking and she don't know what but I hear you. I like being by myself. I like my peace and quiet. We all do. But why do you think that solitude is used as punishment? Why do you think that isolation is used in punishment? Because we were never intended to be alone. Yes, it is healthy and necessary to have alone time. But if your persistent state of existence is, I don't need nobody, and you're by yourself more times than you're not, that's a form of sabotage. Because what you're actually saying is that learning how to navigate life and love and relationships in a healthy, positive, productive way has become so challenging for you. It's become so overwhelming for you that you've quit on you. You've sabotaged your relationship with you. You've made the decision to live in isolation rather than to learn how to adopt clinically what we call pro-social skills, so that you can have healthy, loving, fulfilling, and sustainable relationships with other people without constantly thinking that everybody is going to hurt you, everybody is going to fail you, everybody is going to disappoint you. The primary attachment style that we see when it comes to people who sabotage their relationships, and you've heard me reference this attachment style before, is the anxious, preoccupied, insecure attachment style. When you have that anxious, preoccupied, insecure attachment style, you navigate life from a place of fear. You navigate life from a place of trying to control and dominate and manipulate people at all costs out of fear of losing them, but in actuality, you're pushing them away. Because who wants to have your emotional hand around their throat all the time? People that are anxious and preoccupied are clingy. They're overly needy. They fall into the victim role very, very easily. Somebody's always doing something to them. Somebody's always saying something to them. And there's even times where they might actually feel bad about being so overly needy, about having this persistent and intense longing to be loved, to be accepted, to be needed, to want people to want to be around you. And it ends up doing damage to your relationships, which repeats that cycle. Because again, your greatest fear is abandonment, rejection, and being alone, right? That's your greatest fear. But you push people away, and then you know what you say? I knew they were going to leave. That's why I didn't even, that's why I didn't even put my all in. So you come into the relationship, whether it's an intimate relationship, a friendship, a job, it doesn't matter. You come into the relationship with one foot out the door. That's why, sidebar, just a side note to think about, that's why so many people, young women oftentimes, end up having children by whomever, because something in their brain tells them, I'm going to have a kid because the kid will love me unconditionally. The kid will hurt me. And you know what ends up happening? You become a helicopter mom. And you smother the kid. You put a chokehold on the kid, and the kid doesn't have the freedom to be authentically who they were purposed and predestined to be, because you're so terrified of being alone that you put a chokehold on your kids. You won't let them go away to college. You won't let them play sports because, oh God, they might get hurt. They might get hurt. You won't let them date. You won't let them hang out. Like you literally have your foot on their neck, because they might be human trafficked. They might be kidnapped. They might fill in the blank. But at the root of a lot of that is your own fear of abandonment and rejection. So many people have their hooks in their kids so deep that they don't even realize that they're also setting their child up to be emotionally and relationally dysfunctional. I was working with an individual who came into session one day and wanted to know if their thought process was off, because it was thought to be odd that a young lady that he was dating for a very, very short period of time was demanding, and when I say a short period of time, I'm talking a short period of time, was demanding that he have a relationship with her mother, and that he go out of the way to form a relationship with her mother. And this individual is 30 years old, has never left home, and the sun literally rises and sets on the mom's behind. The mom is the best friend, can't do anything without the mom's approval. The mom gives the 30-year-old adult child an allowance. This adult child has a 9:30 bedtime. And oh, by the way, there's no cognitive deficits in this individual. But the relationship between the mother and the daughter is so enmeshed that the daughter is clearly incapable of functioning in a healthy way outside of her relationship with her mom. And she's so misguided that she doesn't even realize that she's just self-sabotaging one relationship after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. how can you get a better understanding? Because people want to go with these superficial, quick fix, microwavable, answers to what's wrong with me. And a lot of projecting happens onto everybody did something. But the reality of it is that you can't heal anything unless you understand what the root of it is. Because healthy growth is never going to take place in toxic soil. So you have to understand, at least to some degree, what's the root cause of why you're sabotaging your relationships. Could it be unresolved trauma? Could it be, you know, because of whatever it is that's transpired in your life, you've had, self-esteem issues? There's a couple of primary reasons, though, that I want to tease out a little bit for you, because I think that it's so important for you to be able to recognize if you're engaging in these behaviors. So my first question to you is, and you don't have to answer for me, I can't see you. I can't see you. I can feel you, though. I can feel you in my spirit. What are you afraid of? I mean, really. And don't tell me I ain't afraid of nothing. No, no, no. You are. You afraid of getting your heart broken again? You afraid of being rejected? You afraid of being made a fool of? You afraid of being the bullseye of the practical joke? You afraid of being betrayed? You afraid of, there's how many, 7 point, how many ever billion people on planet Earth, and you gonna be the one person that, grows old with cats? You're gonna be by yourself forever. You want a child so bad that you're just willing to have a baby with anybody to say that you have a baby. You have self-esteem that's been destroyed years and years and years and years and years ago. And for people on the outside looking in, you got it going on. You got it go, oh my God, he's beautiful. She's beautiful. She's so smart. She's all of these things. Oh my God, he's so handsome. He's got it going on. He's got a nice car and he's got a great job and he's owning his own home and he's all these things. But the self-esteem, the negative feelings about oneself, the inferiority complex that you have because so long ago things didn't go exactly the way you wanted them to go and you internalized it. And now that fear governs how you enter relationships. It governs how you think and feel and function and navigate life. And because of all of that, because you have constantly lived this self-fulfilling prophecy, you don't trust anybody. And if I could tell you, you don't even trust yourself. You don't even trust yourself to make sound, well-informed decisions about relationships. You second guess everything and everybody. Hey, to me, Carla. You second guess everything and everybody because you keep this repetitive cycle going. So you keep engaging in those dysfunctional relationships, in those abusive relationships, which reaffirms the internal negative narrative that you have about them. And you tell yourself you can't trust nobody. And because you can't trust anybody, you can't trust yourself to pick somebody that's trustworthy. And it's more of the vicious cycle because what you feed grows. You've heard me say before that the study that we do on setting expectations too high has been linked to various forms of mental illness or mental health challenges. Many of you have perfectionist tendencies. You feel so inferior. You feel so inadequate. You feel so unworthy. You feel so insignificant every day of your life that you impose these expectations on yourself, trying to prove to yourself that you are smart, that you are worthy, that you are lovable, that you are amazing, that you are wonderful, that you are all of these things. But at the end of the day, those expectations are contributing to you self-sabotaging, first and foremost, your relationship with yourself, And secondly, your relationship with other people, because you're imposing expectations upon yourself that you can't live up to, because there is no such thing as perfection. You can have excellence and you can have greatness, but even, and you hear me put it in athletic terms all the time, even the greats, even the goats of sports have made mistakes. But it doesn't mean that they're not great. It doesn't mean that they're not the GOAT. They're the GOAT, flaws and all. So how is it that everyday folks like me and you are supposed to navigate life perfectly? Are you kidding me? Doesn't that, just hearing that, doesn't that sting? That you're the hamster on the wheel, chasing perfection, chasing perfection, chasing perfection, chasing perfection. And then every time that life reminds you how imperfect you are, every time the person that loves you more than you love yourself reminds you that it's okay to be imperfect, you know what you say? Don't be judging me. Don't be criticizing me. You think you better than me. Oh, no, boo-boo. That's your junk. That's your stuff. I don't think I'm better than you. I'm flawed. I talk about my flaws all the time. All the time. You're so busy trying to be something that you can never be, that you won't even allow someone that genuinely and sincerely loves you and care about you to correct you. So you know what you do? You put your exit strategy in motion, you squeal tires, and you're out of there. Off to the next dysfunctional relationship, off to the next abusive relationship, because you don't want to be held accountable. Ain't nothing wrong with you. That's what's wrong with everybody else. They the ones. Ain't nothing wrong with your self-esteem. I'm not trying to avoid being hurt. I just got boundaries, Dr. Pitts. I'm not willing to tolerate nothing. You're so afraid of being hurt that you won't even extend grace to the flawed human being that loves you but acknowledges that they're flawed. So you know what you do? You hold them to a standard of excellence. You hold them to a standard of perfection and greatness that you yourself cannot even live up to. And if you don't believe me, look in the mirror. Look in the mirror. But it's them. They did it. You picked them. You picked them. But think about it this way. What is the one thing that every single solitary one of your relationships has in common? I give you one guess. You. You're the common denominator in every single solitary relationship that you've ever been in. You're the common denominator. So how could it possibly be that it's always somebody else's fault? They're the one with the self-esteem issues. They're the one that don't want to be held accountable. They're the one that has inadequate relationship skills. They're the one that has trust issues. They're the one that lies. They're the one that's a commitment phobe. They're the one that's insecurely attached. They're the one that has unrealistic expectations. They're the ones that's overly judgmental and critical. They're the one that's gaslighting. They're the one that's been unfaithful. They're the one that doesn't know how to cope. Thank you. You picked them. They're the one that holds grudges and won't let nothing go. They're the one that's insanely jealous. They're the one that's an overthinker. And guess what else? They're the one that's passive aggressive. It's all them. So what's that say about you? That you keep picking people that check off all these here good boxes. What's that say about you? You keep picking these individuals that have all of these personal deficiencies. And you know what people, you know what my clients say to me? I mean, Dr. Pitts, I know I'm not perfect. No, you're not. So do you act like you are? Why do you navigate life as if you are? Why do you hold people to a perfectionist standard that you yourself can not live up to? How many of you, and be honest, you don't have to tell me, it's a rhetorical question, because again, I can't see it. How many of you have entered your relationships with an exit strategy? Mm-hmm. I remember in the very beginning of me and my husband's relationship, one of the things that we talked about was a prenuptial agreement. And I was, I was in turmoil about that because it just seemed like, don't get it twisted. I conceptually, I understand the importance of a prenuptial agreement. I totally get it. I understand the importance of it. And I knew where God was taking me and the things that were clear to me that were coming into my life. And I asked him if he would be willing to sign one. And he said yes. And I'm not telling, I tell my clients all the time, I never tell anybody what to do. I'm not telling anybody what to do. I'm speaking about how I handled this situation, but it's connected. After I thought about it and I prayed about it, it just didn't sit well in my spirit. And I didn't ask him to sign one again. And we got married, and he knows what I live by. And what I live by is what I told him before we even got married. There are certain things that I will and will not tolerate. It's not about, I don't have an exit strategy. I don't. But I do have firm boundaries, and unlike many people, I made those boundaries very, very clear before we even started dating. And my husband says, he says it all the time to me. He said, babe, you're consistent. I've always been consistent. If I say green, it's green. If I say red, it's red. I don't have a wishy-washy bone in my body. So I stayed true to me in not asking him or requiring him to sign a prenup, and here's why. And I know there's plenty of Christian folk that will totally disagree with that and say that it was a lack of wisdom on my part. But I am a firm believer that if he doesn't do right by me, he doesn't have to answer to me. He has to answer to God. And there isn't anything other than my life that my husband could take from me if he decided to act crazy that God can't restore. In other words, I refuse to live my life afraid of what he may do to me. I refuse to live my life afraid of him cheating on me or abandoning me or rejecting me or anything like that. And I saw asking for a prenup, it just, for me, it felt like it was going to be self-sabotage. It felt like, it's like, like I'm coming in already expecting it not to work. And I just opted not to do that. So I want to give you some tips to think about that can be instrumental in helping you to combat your self-sabotaging behavior if these things that I've shared with you speak to you. And again, you're going to have to be honest. You don't have to be honest with me. I don't know you. But if you're going to grow, if you're going to be healthy, if you're going to have truly what you really, really want, which is a healthy, loving, and fulfilling and sustainable relationship, you have to be willing to get out of your own way. You have to be willing to acknowledge your own junk, that luggage piece, that 12-piece luggage set that you've been carrying from one relationship to the next, and every time you leave one relationship and go to another one, you take more luggage with you. You have to be willing to unpack that luggage. a big part, at least what I've seen in my work, that keeps people in these fractured relationships is you're not willing to let anything go. You're keeping score. You're keeping a mental list of everything that everybody has ever said or done to hurt you. So it's keeping you operating life in that place and space of fear. It's keeping you focused on the negative, and you have to remember that what you feed grows. It's keeping you in a victim mindset. Victim, 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 victim. You keep, I remember, hilarious, my husband will love this. Back when we first started dating, he was talking about one of the things that our son used to say to him was, Pop, why are you bringing up old stuff? Right. And to this day, we still crack up laughing about that. But that's my question to you. Why you keep bringing up the pain from the past? You can't undo it. It happened, and it was unfortunate that it happened. But, like I said last week, how long you going to stay slave to a corpse? Whether that corpse is an actual deceased corpse or a live corpse. How long are you going to keep bringing up the pain from the past? How long are you going to keep allowing the pain of your past to cause strife in your present? How long are you going to keep one foot out the door, one foot in the door, one foot in the like? What are you doing? I've said before, I don't think I've said it during the live, but I certainly said it during my podcast, that one of the things that my first husband's mother used to say to me is that I was going to mess around and be dead right. And what she meant by that is there comes a point in time where wisdom says be quiet, right? When it comes to relationship sabotage, you have to ask yourself, do you want to be right, or do you want to have a healthy, fulfilling, and sustainable relationship? Because when it comes to being right, let's be honest, how come being right isn't enough? Why do you need to make a public service announcement that you were right? Why do you need somebody, just admit it, I was right, I was right, I was right. You know why you need that? Because you question yourself, because you have self-doubt. So you're looking for people to validate your rightness. But the problem with that is that it causes the relationship to fracture. You have to be willing to be humble enough to know that, yeah, I was right, but being right is enough. Like, I don't need you to acknowledge it. What I've said, when my husband and I talk about this, and because we don't go through all of that, but what I say to folks is, when you're right, right always illuminates itself. Like, you don't have to make a public service announcement that you were right. Like, it reveals itself at the appointed time. You don't have to tell the person I was right, just admit it. It's evident. It'll be evident. The truth comes to light. So why do you need to have them say you were right, you were right, you were right? It disrupts the peace. It disrupts the health and the sustainability of the relationship. One of the things that I said to a client yesterday, and I said it in the beginning here today, is that people get so busy keeping score. People are so petty. People are so immature. People are so irresponsible. People are so wounded that they just refuse to extend grace to others. We call that pride. One of the exercises that I do with my clients is when they come in and they're arguing and fussing and fighting and bickering over just dumb, petty stuff that really don't mean nothing about nothing. Like, really? Like, if one of y'all didn't wake up tomorrow, would this argument even freaking matter? And if it's something that's serious enough that it would matter, what is so hard about being mature, responsible adults and choosing to show up as your adult self and having a rational, mature, responsible conversation? But this is what I say to my clients. When was the last time that your partner, your spouse, your mama and them, your children, your boss, or anybody that you're connected to relationally in your life, when was the last time that they took out a checklist and said, how many different ways can I hurt Erica today? How many different ways can I disrespect Sarah today? How many different ways can I abuse, neglect, and mistreat Hakeem today? Who does that? Nobody's doing that. But you navigate life like they are. And you won't extend grace. You are so busy taking everything so personal that you won't forgive, that you won't give yourself permission to see the best in people and to move on and live your life in a peaceful, healthy, positive, and productive way. Bishop said something, I think I mentioned it last week too. He was talking about, and then my husband sent me a TikTok on it, but talking about when people don't like you. People don't like you and they don't even know you. I got a whole bunch of people that don't like me. Okay. The people that I have wronged and have legitimate reasons to dislike me, I have tried over the years to right those wrongs, and I can't make somebody forgive me who don't want to forgive me. I'm not carrying that burden anymore. I made mistakes. I was the walking wounded. I hurt people in the process because hurting people hurt people. And here's the thing. Anybody who has chosen not to forgive me for the wrong that I've done or for the mistakes that I've made, it's like you're reaching into your fireplace and taking out a wooden log and expecting me to get burned. And that's the case with anybody who you're harboring resentment, bitterness, or unforgiveness towards. And as long as you continue to do that, it sabotages relationships that might otherwise actually be a blessing for you. I told my husband today when we were talking, I don't have any hatred, bitterness, or unforgiveness in my heart toward anybody. The one caveat to that is that when people show me who they are, I believe them. So there's certain people that I have revoked their access card to me because they have repeatedly demonstrated to me that I'm not safe with them. Their behavior has clearly indicated to me that they are okay hurting me. They're okay disrespecting me. They're okay carrying me in ways that are contrary to how I'm willing to be treated. So in that case, if that's your situation, that's not self-sabotage. That's literally, in essence, firing someone who has demonstrated to you that they needed to have their access card revoked because they keep demonstrating to you that they don't know how to honor you, to respect you, to value and appreciate the boundaries that you've put in place for how you're supposed to be treated. My husband and I were having another conversation. He was listening to somebody on TikTok and they said something that's powerful, and it's something that I say to my clients often. We have to be the change that we wish to see in others. How can you demand somebody to respect you when you're disrespectful? How can you demand somebody to be loyal to you when you're not loyal? How can you demand somebody to be friendly to you when you're hateful? Like, you have to be that, right? And yeah, there are definitely times in your life where when people go low, you can go high, but that shouldn't be every minute of every day where you're always the one going high. What that behavior is telling you is that that person is not ready to have the access granted to you that you've granted to them. So you have to reevaluate who you've granted access to so that you can be clear on, am I sabotaging, or did this relationship need to be redefined anyway? That's a very different experience, and you have to be clear on what that is. You have to, if you're going to break this habit of self-sabotage, you have to notice what you're noticing. What do I mean by that? You have to pay attention to what your behavioral patterns are. You have to give yourself permission to be present for you so that you're paying closer attention. Do some personal inventory. I've taught you how to do that before. Do some personal inventory. You know, who are you around? What are you doing? What feelings, positive or negative, are coming up for you when you're around certain people? You have to pay attention to that, because what that could be indicating for you is that that relationship needs to be reevaluated. And the reality of it is, some toxic relationships you may just need to walk away from once and for all, because, you know, we all grow at different paces. But at the end of the day, what did I say? Nothing grows in toxic soil. Everybody is not meant to be a part of your life forever. This is cliche, but it's true. Reason, season, lifetime. Some people are in your life for a reason, some people are in your life for a season, and some people are in your life for a lifetime. But you have to be careful who you're dragging into each phase of your life, because you got some folks, it's not self-sabotage. You weren't still supposed to be connected to them. So you have to notice what behavior patterns you're engaging in that are creating these toxic situations for you, so you can address those personal deficiencies and break those negative cycles that keep you connected to abusive or dysfunctional people. I'm real big on words, right? Words have power. What are you saying to yourself? What types of conversation are you having with yourself? And is that conversation constantly judgmental and critical of you or of the people that you're in a relationship with? That's a problem. You have to be able to speak life. Like, one of the things that I do, and I've been using this tool to work with my clients, is I have a prayer list, if you will, of things that it's like I prayed at one time, and now just on a daily basis, I thank God for the manifestation of these things in my husband's life. And like I tell my clients, there's a bunch of these things that my husband checks off. But because we're all human, because we're all flawed, there's also things that there's room for growth, just like there's room for growth in me. So what I do is I pray over this list in the morning, but more importantly, I'm thanking God for answering that prayer and seeing the manifestation as my husband continues to grow and evolve into who God purposed and predestined him to be. Because I could tell him A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, but I have no control over him. I have no power over him. But what I do have is the power of prayer. So I lift things in prayer. I don't try to fix it myself. I don't try to be God to him. So I use positive talk, positive self-talk. If he does something that bothers me or whatever the case may be, I'm not bashing him in my head. I've done that before. And I held myself accountable for stopping that. The Bible tells us to speak those things that be not as though they were. So rather than allowing myself to get frustrated and having an internal negative conversation with myself about whatever it was he said or did that frustrated me, I put those frustrations on the altar, and I started having conversation with God about what God says I'm entitled to in my husband. Because like I said, he checks off a lot of those boxes, and the areas that are areas for growth, they're areas for growth. I put them on the altar and keep them in prayer. You have to set achievable goals for yourself. In other words, you got to put that perfectionism to rest. Use the SMART model, or one of the one of the collegiate models that's out here for setting and achieving goals, so that you're able to build up your sense of self, so that you're able to feel good about the small victories. Small victories lead to big victories. Stop setting yourself up to fail and then using that failure as an excuse to exit stage left. Set more realistic goals so that you're able to achieve the level of success that you desire, and start keeping a success journal. A lot of people journal. Some people think it's corny or whatever, but keep a success journal. Start tracking even the smallest of victories. I got a $2 raise at work. I got, the attendance award. A topic came up that me and my husband usually argue about, and we didn't argue this time. We were able to have a healthy conversation, and I didn't lose my stuff and then fly off the handle and act crazy. I didn't slap the flower off of my kid when they were in the flower bucket. You know, celebrate the small victories, because what that does is build up your sense of self. And then you have to take care of your physical and your mental health. I was talking to a client yesterday who was talking about physically how bad she felt. And I said a big part of why you feel so bad physically is because your head's not on straight. Your thoughts and feelings are the remote control that determines the frequency that your brain is operating on. And if you're all sad and depressed and yucky and ilky and all of these things, well, of course you're going to feel bad in your physical body. You're telling yourself how sad you are. You're telling yourself how depressed you are. You're telling yourself how mad you are. You're telling yourself how much you hate your life. Why are you surprised? Everything in life is created twice, first in thought and then in manifestation. So of course you're feeling physically ill. Here, you got to take care of your mental health and you have to take care of your physical health. That is an integral part of your ability to stop self-sabotaging. Do some positive reflection on your hopes, your goals, your dreams, your aspirations, your values, your priorities. What's governing your steps? Why are you engaging in behavior or relationships that are contrary to your value system? Why? Because you're afraid of being by yourself? Because you're lonely? So you settle and then wonder why you feel so defeated? Wonder why you feel so foolish? Wonder why you feel like you're going crazy? Stay true to your values. And if you don't know what they are beyond the superficial level, shoot me an email. DM me. I'll give you some tools that can help you to address them. Do you have any priorities, or are you just allowing life to have its way with you? Don't you know that if you live another 365 days and you don't put appropriate systems and measures in place, that 2024 is going to look just like 2023 and 2022 and 2021 and 2020? You have to architecturally blueprint your life. And no, that doesn't mean that everything is going to go exactly the way you want it to go. But you do have some say. Stop just allowing life to toss you to and fro and have its way with you. You don't need friends or family members co-signing your dysfunction. You need accountability partners. You need to humble yourself and allow folk to pull you up on your junk. And you need to allow folks to help you to get out of your own way. And that comes in the form of an accountability partner. You have to practice self-compassion, self-love. Folks, you got to forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for being flawed. Forgive yourself for being imperfect. Forgive yourself and everybody else that's ever hurt you. Forgiveness is such a critical element to your ability to see self-sabotage. But you got to learn how to love yourself. You got to learn how to extend some grace to yourself. And then lastly, if you need to, humble yourself and admit that the things that you've been going through in your life are bigger than you and you need help. You need to solicit the support of a professional, a behavioral, relational, or mental health practitioner, a life coach that can help you to get out of your own way. That's how you stop self-sabotaging, so that you can have stronger, healthier, more fulfilling relationships that will be instrumental in helping you to live a life that you can honestly and truthfully say that you love living. Does anybody have any questions for me? Anybody? No, I got a session in 11 minutes. I'm always jumping from here straight into a session. I give you one more minute. No questions? Okay. Well, I thank you all for joining tonight. I thank you for hopefully giving yourself permission to take some key things away from this information that will help you to be a stronger, healthier, better version of yourself. And don't just keep this information for yourself. Share it. Share it with your children. Share it with your family members. Share it with your friends. Share it with your coworkers. Each one reach one. That's how we all become healthier. That's how we all become better. Because you really, truly do deserve to be the best version of yourself that you can be. But it's going to require you to do the self-work. And there's no better time than the present to get started, because you are worth it. I'll see you back next week, same time, same channel. Next week we're going to be talking about effective communication, and that's actually going to be a 2-part live. So for the next 2 weeks, starting next week, I'm going to be talking about effective communication and all of the different ways that can help or hinder your personal and professional and relationship growth. So again, I thank you all. Have a great evening. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you all next week. Bye.